This is my first car, a 1967 VW Beetle 1500. It's probably my most precious car. It hasn't been on the road now since 2004. In this episode, I'm going to be trying to get it on the road, ready for the summer, going through the fuel system, the braking system, and just making sure it's as reliable as it can be to enjoy in 2021. This is The Late Brake Show. I'm Jonny Smith, and this episode is sponsored proudly by Haynes. You can get 10% off all of their products. There's a discount code that I will put below. Back at the beginning of 2020, I did a video actually on this channel, which I'll put up here, and that was when I got the car running for the first time in about a decade. It's a victim of really being sat for too long, so a lot of the hydraulic brakes were sticking and not returning, the fuel system was a bit gunged up, the carburetor definitely wasn't performing as it should, so a number of things it needed, we knew that. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be, well, first of all, we're going to take off the wheels, we're going to slacken anything which needs slackening under the weight of the car, then get the thing onto axle stands, and then start looking at the fuel system, the brake system, and then at the back, things like the carburetor. And I've got an adult to help me, my brother, Greg, who loves this car, absolutely loves this car. If you've watched the video of us tinkering with the Jimny, you'll recognise him. So, first of all, yeah, I know the Beetle has a bloody massive hub nut at the back, which is torqued right up to like
200 and something pounds.
200 pounds feet. I just looked in the manual. So we've got to slacken that off under the car's weight, and then we'll get the wheels off, and then we'll get it up. I must point out, actually, before we started, so this was yesterday, I took the front calipers off, and I took them to EBC Brakes so that they could put new seals in the calipers, which I'll put some footage up of now. So yeah, first of all, there is a split pin. Yeah, there's a split pin. I'll get my gloves on. So we need to take the split pin out.
That's it.
This is probably the heftiest nut on a Beetle. And you can't get to the drum brakes without taking this nut off. So we're going to slacken that off before we get the car up.
Just straighten the tails out.
Yeah.
First.
We're doing it in my garage, and this is actually going to be one of the last times you see this garage because I'm going to demolish it in the next 7 weeks or so. So it will be rubble for about a year. So I'm going to be garageless for some time, which is when I'll be asking for some more favours off someone I know for space to work on cars, which will be the G unit.
Now, I don't know when these will last off.
I think Dad and I lasted those. I think I'm going to chock this. Let me get a brick.
Are we in gear?
Yeah, I've put it in gear, but let me get a brick. Do you know what's amazing about this manual?
What?
This is the one that I got for my 16th birthday.
Yeah, they're good, aren't they?
And I've still got in here, I've still got bookmarks from the last jobs we must have done on it.
So
and one of them's the bus pass.
Creature to roost.
Some sort of bus pass for secondary school. Idiots, aren't we?
I think I might just try undoing this.
Did that just undo?
Yeah.
God, that was easy. Okay, I'm trying to jack it as high as we can. Because the engine is at the back and the brakes are at the back and the exhaust is at the back, want to get the back as high off the ground as possible. Really simple. Obviously, don't trust a jack. Always put the car on axle stands as your backup in case you get crushed. And the other thing is don't trust the jacking point on an old car, because although the jacking points on my Beetle are relatively solid, a lot of old cars they're not, and you can put the jacking point through the car and give yourself a mighty big hole. I wouldn't recommend that at all. So this is the exhaust that Greg and I put on in the 1990.
Back in the 90s, yeah?
Yeah, back of 96, maybe 97. So it's lasted okay, but you can see it's knackered, it's rotten along there. I think it was a German one. I think I bought a German one. And we're putting on not a completely original one, but not a high performance exhaust, a repro one from Heritage Parts Centre. I've got a nice big box of Heritage Parts Centre stuff around the back. Exhaust on a Beetle now, there's just dozens of choices, and I wanted to go something that was sort of fairly cost effective, and the car's not high performance and it's never really going to be. So I've gone for an aftermarket MP, what they call a pea shooter system, which is just pretty much simple. Twin tailpipes are visually the same, and it should fit onto the heat exchangers and stuff like that, so you can use it as was. Not sure it's a higher performance item, but it's what I could get and it fits, I believe. But you can either get a replica of the original, or you can get stainless steel, or you can go full on, you know, dual quiet pack, single quiet pack, Stinger. But this is, I don't want it to sound any different really. So that's why I've gone for something like this. Obviously, being a Beetle, fuel tank's at the front. I'm going to unbolt and take the fuel tank out. I want to clean the tank out thoroughly, and I've got some nice potions to do that. Now you can see the fuel tank, the black thing. Because this is an earlier Beetle, this is the last year that they had the fuel filler. Yes, the last year of the fuel filler under here. Then they put it outside onto the side from 68.
Like a normal car?
Like a normal car. 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts and the fuel tank is out. Right, so all the... So simple. I remember it's a joy working on this car most of the time. All the fuel tank's held in by is 4 clamps. It just clamps it down to the inner body. 4 of those off, and then theoretically, yeah, the fuel tank lifts. We've drained all the old fuel out. It wasn't that old, it's about a year old actually, but there's a load of sludge in there. That's all going to be used for cleaning parts. There's a lot of rust in there, but I don't think the tank is that bad. It hasn't got any holes in it. So I'm going to run it through a couple of cleaning processes that I've got some special potions for. And we're going to do that and leave it to marinate for about 24 hours. And that should clean it internally as well as possible before we put it back in the car. I've used Built Hammer products a lot on different cars, mostly for like rust prevention and like cavity wax. British company, really quite a cool setup. But they've got this fuel tank cleaning kit, and I was keen to use something that would cleanse the inside of it and protect it. It's like a 2-stage thing. I've got my phone out because I want to. So the kit contains Deoxy crystalline 100% active corrosion removal, which is dissolved in tap water to produce a powerful rust removing liquid, and then Deoxy. Oh yeah, there we go. That's Deoxy. Then we've got Surfex HD, which is a perfect pre-treatment cleaner. I've got the 20 litres of hot water there. That's the kids' shower down the drain tonight. You can hear Greg's just put a little bit of petrol back in because we've used a torch and seen how many rust flakes are in there. We thought we'd swill it out and take the worst of the flakes out first. You'll see. Oh my gosh. So that is the worst. Oh, look at the last bit. Oh. Oh, wow.
That's actually blocked the funnel, there's so much.
That is actually, look. Okay, but this is as hot a water as ever comes out of our boiler. Yes, I know it's a bucket stuck inside a bucket. Don't ask. It's been like that for 2 years. I'm going to try and get as much of this in there we can. Then we add the mix, the Surfex HD.
That's it.
Good job, I'm bloody strong, Greg.
Is that why you're shaking?
Yeah. Let's do this. A litre goes in. and then we have to start agitating. Are you good at that?
Agitating?
Or I'll do it actually, because I'm the strong one, yeah?
Yeah.
I've used Built Hammer products before for corrosion protection, rust removal, and the stuff's really good. They're not paying me to say this. And this kit for the fuel tank is 20 quid. So it's not expensive, and it's biodegradable, not solvent-based. I'm just really keen to see the results. I've read up and it's had some good feedback, so I'm hoping that giving it a good... Look at the moves. What I'm going to do before I put the tank back in, I will I'll paint some rust. I'll just wire brush underneath and paint some rust removal stuff on it. And I've got some waxy solution. When I restore the car, eventually, obviously, I'll probably blast this and 2-pack it, but not now. Not this time.
If there's enough steel left.
Yeah, if there's enough steel left.
So we just leave that now and then agitate every so often?
I'm going to agitate that just after dinner.
Okay.
That's what I tend to do.
Yeah.
And then I will drain that out into the same bucket.
Mm-hmm. Put a lid on.
And then we'll come back tomorrow and we'll do the next process. And that can be marinating while we're doing the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Okay.
Excellent.
Time for dinner. New shiny non-rusty things for the Beetle. It's not always exciting to buy stuff like brake parts, but I want to do it right. We've got an enormous amount of stuff. Here we go. We've got hoses, discs, pads, hard lines, refurbished calipers, shoes, shoe fit kit, gaskets, new ignition, tie rods, master cylinder, CV boots, fuel pump rebuild kit, carb rebuild kit. It's all here. And it's all going on that right now. We're now going to fit the exhaust. We've cleaned up the mating faces on the heads, and I've had a look at the diagram. Now that isn't a standard exhaust, but the principle's the same of where the different pipes connect to the parts on the heads and the heat exchangers. Beetle gasket kit is quite complicated, isn't it? There's a lot of exhaust.
There's a lot of bits, yeah.
There's a lot of bits.
But that's a good diagram in the book.
Yeah.
Which shows you where everything
There's a good
goes.
diagram, and we don't need to fit separate pea shooters. On this aftermarket MP system, they're already built onto it. They're already welded on. So with the standard exhaust, they were bolted on. So Greg's going to do the right-hand bank. I'm going to do the left-hand bank. It's not easy to see, to show everything that we're doing, because it's all underneath in there, in the engine bay or in the inner wing. But you can see on this side, because it's a flat 4, that's obviously the that's the tappet covers, the valve covers. That's the heat exchanger pipe, which is, it's not really, it is part of the exhaust system, but it's the part that you change a lot less than the back box. Exhaust is done. We're now turning our attention to the front end, because before we can put the fuel tank in, we've got to deal with the brakes beneath. The reservoir's on the front here. We're going to replace that because this one is the original. The top never fitted properly. The master cylinder looks like it's been under there for, I reckon that's the original master cylinder.
It's entirely possible.
I bet it is. And it does still work, but it's always been a little bit weepy, and don't like it, single circuit. We're going to take that out. I've rust treated this area last night, and I zinc primed the bottom of the fuel tank. So I'm going to do this, Greg's going to do that, and then we'll replace the hard lines as well as the flexis. We'll do all that here. It's a great bit of design, the way that just fits in, just pushes into this recess with these little lugs. I do love the design of the Beetle. I think that's one of the reasons why I always wanted one. The shape is one thing, but I think the design and the quality of the engineering has always been brilliant. Okay, out with the old, and then once we've cleaned up, in with the new. The old brake lines, they didn't leak. They're so brittle, they don't want to flex, and I just don't trust them. This is the sort of stuff that deteriorates with cars sitting. New hoses, please. Okay, there.
pretty manky, isn't it?
Yeah, we've snipped off the brake lines, the hard lines, because we've got new ones. That is skanky. And this was the last year, I think, for single circuit brakes on the Beetle. This being the first year of discs and the first year of 12 volt. But here I've got the brand new master cylinder. There we go, look. There. Looks the same, thank goodness. We're going to clean that area up, put that on, then we can start putting all the new hard lines on. You can see at the back of the old master cylinder, there's the brake switch. We could probably reuse it if it still works, but I've got another one because if we're going to this hassle, why not? I'm going to pull that plug out and then that will go in there. It's another thing knocked off the list. Access is really hard once all of the tank and everything's bolted in.
Okay, so here's one I prepared earlier. The bearings are all greased, pressed in, ready to go. The tab washer is there. The seal's in the back. So all I'm going to do is, with a little bit of the grease that's inside there already, just put a little bit around that diameter where the seal itself runs on the back of the stub axle. And then we can go straight on like that. Thus. And then we have to make sure that that little lug on that washer goes into that keyway. This side has the left-hand thread, as denoted by the L there. And then on we go. So once we put the disc on, we need to set the end float of the bearing. They're tapered roller bearings. So this, obviously, this side has the left-hand thread. So we tighten all the way up to make sure that the bearing is put to bed. And then we back off and we see how much end float we've got. If I go away back like that, there we can see we've got six thou. And then we just snug that down. And I'm going to head for 2 thou because you want really to be at the bottom limit, because by the time you get out here on quite a large wheel, that's quite a bit of movement. But essentially it's just to compensate for the hub warming up. So I reckon that's good there. So off we come. And then we can fit the hubcap and the little speedo drive. So next we're going to fit the caliper. So first of all we're going to fit the new hose, and these ones seat down inside there, so you don't need the sealing ring. So wind that in and put that to bed like that. And then we've got our famous plate again. So in through the hole. I'm just going to fit the plate loosely so that I can get the caliper put in position. That will just hold that in place while I'm mucking about. Now these bolts have to be torqued up, which I will consult the Haynes manual for in a mo. But for now, I'm just going to snug them up so that I can get the hose positioned and get ready for running the hard lines. So all that remains is to fit the new pads to the caliper, and then this corner is done.
I'm going to now replace the ignition. Want a good strong spark. This has always been very reliable, but there's a couple of bits, the HT leads as well, they're quite old. Got a set of HT leads. I'll replace one at a time because otherwise I will forget where they go. And I'll take one off, offer the length up, put the same one back. And I'm also going to do the dizzy cap and the rotor arm. Old fuel lines, brittle, so putting new fuel lines on goes without saying, new filter because it's pence. Even though I put this filter on last summer on the video when I got the car running for the first time in years. We're going to do that. We're going to take the carburetor off and clean that out and check whether it needs any new gaskets and things. Okay, that is ready for there. Yeah. And before I connect that up, I'll probably take that one off. That's a bit brittle. It goes then into hard line through the firewall and then into the chassis. There's a little bit of flexi under there. I'll do those two bits in rubber. The hard line fuel line that goes through the middle of the car I think is good, so we're going to keep that. What's quite cool is you can buy rebuild kits, and I've got one for the fuel pump and the carb, so we are going to strip the carb and check it, because in my video that I made before last year during lockdown where I got the car running for the first time in years, it was definitely spluttering. I think it had ingested some dirt despite putting a new filter on it. So we'll do that. I might take the fuel filter off, and if it needs any bits that I've got a rebuild kit. Just taking the fuel pump off. I remember putting this on. It's just got a little foot that gets pushed up and down there. I've still got, this was actually a Brazilian one, but I've actually got the original German pump that failed, and we couldn't get a rebuild kit at the time, but we do have one now. So got the compressor going because we're just going to blow through the fuel line, the hard fuel line from the front to the rear before I refit any of the bits, just to make sure there's no blockage.
Ready?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bit more than I was expecting. Yeah, a lot came through, Greg.
Okay, let's keep going until not a lot comes through.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That was purged. God, that rag smells lovely. I might go to bed with it tonight.
So this is the rear drum that did actually come off. So, as you can see, the shoes aren't worn out, but plenty of dust and filth to be got rid of, and an undoubtedly questionable ancient wheel cylinder. So we're going to take the shoes out, which hopefully will come out relatively easily. He says.
I'll go and get the fitting kit for the shoes.
Okay.
I've got two sizes of shoes because, again, crossover year car, don't quite know which ones this one was until we had it all apart. So either a 30mm set or a 40mm set.
Well, we'll see when it's out.
Yeah, hardware set.
So that's the handbrake cable disconnected.
I've got spare handbrake cables because, again, I wasn't sure whether they would be in a state of disrepair.
So obviously try and disturb as little of this poisonous filthy dust as possible. Yeah, I mean, they're not in bad nick really. They've just got old.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So that's out of there. Now hopefully the wheel cylinder will be kind to us. Okay, so now we're going to fit the new wheel cylinder, which hopefully is going to go in there nicely like that, and secure it at the back with its bolt. Put a little bit of copper slip on the bolt so it all comes apart next time, if there is a next time.
There will be a next time.
So the drum that simply wouldn't come off is now off. All the splines were completely rusted, so we had to go a little bit medieval with it and get the old Sykes Pickavant hydraulic puller and the gas torch, the old Rothenberger, on the case, and it did eventually yield, but needed heating and pulling the whole way off. So would never have come off any other way, I don't think, but luckily everything seems to have survived.
What was it, really rusted?
Yeah, just obviously being the near side, this is the side where all the puddles are, and the whole of that, I've cleaned this up now, but the whole of that spline was red rust. So
I think I'm filming this myself because typically these things happen when we finished officially filming and we've run into a few delays. But I mean, I'm a mere amateur. I don't work on cars for a living. I do it as a sort of amateur hobbyist. You work on cars, old vintage stuff for a living.
yeah.
Is it fair for us to say that things, even when you plan, things don't always go according to plan?
Exactly. Perfect case in point. The drum your side just came off.
I kicked it. I tapped it with the steel-toed boot.
And it came off.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to swap out this very manky and not entirely flexible flexi hose. We've just snipped the brake pipes, not messing around, and in goes the new one, complete with the mortal remains of the little retaining clips. So.
It's all a bit hidden on a Beetle. There's the rear drum setup. We know that a 67 Beetle, model year Beetle, is the same as early Beetle rear drums, not late. So we fitted the correct shoes. You've got to transfer over the handbrake mechanism, which we didn't know about, but now we know. We're Greg's muttering. We're doing the hard lines on the brakes, where they go through the main body up to the front, up to the master cylinder, trying to feed it in under the seat and stuff. Oh man, it's taking way longer than I originally thought. Maybe I've been foolish, I don't know. Depends who you ask.
I don't think foolish, it's naive possibly.
Naive. But it's one of those things where what we've done I'm really pleased with so far, but it just takes much longer and it's tiring. We've still got quite a few jobs to knock off the list, so I'm just hoping we can get them done really. But the payoff is that everything we do to improve this car is worthwhile because the car is staying with me forever. You know, it's a keeper car, so that softens the annoyance. I've just been here where you can see these two Jubilee clips. This is the CV boot that was badly split on my car. In fact, it's down there on the floor somewhere. There's a bit of it there. So here's the very, very knackered old one. It was almost completely torn. And here's the new one. Volkswagen. Even still says made in West Germany on it. So we've had to take the driver's seat out in order to access the new brake line. It goes under the seat, past where the battery sits, and then through a grommet, through the firewall, and then along to the through to where the pedal box is.
Yeah, and then that all just snuggles.
I remember fitting that blooming carpet set. I remember being in there on pretty much most of the day in the car on the drive. I remember the glue got me as high as a kite.
Yeah, it will do.
And I didn't really know what I was doing. I fell out of the car. You can probably just see by the pedal box a little bit of shiny copper as it goes through to the master cylinder. All that's glue from the carpet set, which kind of has fallen down over the years. I've got some of this Dynax UB built hammer. It's clear cavity wax for rust protection. I'm going to just blast some of it onto the zinc primer before I put the tank in. And I've also done it around the rear suspension area that solve a lot of surface rust. Just localised, really easy to use, so I'm going to blast some of that on while I'm here. I don't have the most logical brain in the world, but removing the back bolt nut on the Carb on a Beetle, I think is an absolute swine. I couldn't get any other tool in there that I had about me, so I found a cheap spanner and I've cut it down. and filed it so it can get in round the back of there without clogging everything up. I didn't want to take everything off. I'm sure there's a better way, but I don't know it. It's really late. Greg's gone home. This is the second late night we've spent on it. Had another part that wasn't quite fitting right. But I've got to try and stay positive. The bits we fitted I'm really pleased with. The brakes are done. I still got to rebuild the carburettor. I'm just going to take the fuel pump apart and just check that that's okay. And then in the morning, I guess, finish the carb, fill and bleed the brakes, adjust these drums up and the handbrake. That's probably it. It has fought us a bit today. It's just quite hard. It's quite hard because you don't know what's going to try and trip you up, and you don't know what is going to fit properly or not. So
all we're getting is
it's basically a dripping
dribble.
tap.
Yeah, and it'll be because that's the entrance there to it. So that's where it draws from, and that will all be skanked up.
The plug hole is blocked.
The plug hole is blocked, essentially.
Before we stick the carb in the ultrasonic bath, let's have a look inside it. Can you tilt it?
Like that?
Yeah, tilt it like that. Is
Yeah.
that all sediment?
Yeah.
Ready? Oh yeah.
These are a different colour. They'll have changed the chemical composition. That'll be a different material that's able to withstand the modern fuel.
On the butt?
Yeah,
And it,
pumping the fuel through like mad.
it's whistling.
Whistling.
You wanted it to, didn't you?
Yeah.
How nice is that?
Perfect.
The wheels are turning.
Yeah, they will do. Just a bit of drag.
Because there's no resistance.
Yeah. It's the oil carrying the output shaft around.
That's not bad, is it, for a car? That hasn't been started in a very, very long time. Very long time. So another day came. Greg rebuilt the carburettor, and we continued beavering away in the garage to finish it. Everything had taken longer than I expected, no doubt, but we had knocked a lot off the list when I thought about it. New flexi and hard brake lines, new shoes, new wheel cylinders, new master cylinder, new calipers, discs, pads, new handbrake cables, new CV boots, new gearbox oil, rebuilt fuel pump, new fuel lines, new exhaust, new HT leads, distributor cap, rotor arm, new fan belt, new track rods, cleaned and protected fuel tank. We had done all of that, and now it was time to actually drive the car that I hadn't driven on the road since 2004. This is so familiar. This little draft piece, really precise gear shift. I can hear a bit of that tinware that I've put back is probably just chafing on the exhaust, the new exhaust. Feels really special. Feels very special indeed, actually. Strangely familiar. I hope you've enjoyed watching this episode. It's probably my most kind of heartfelt for me anyway. It's just a rusty car, but it's a very, very special car, isn't it? These cars do things to us sometimes. And now I've just got to put some miles on it, take it on some journeys. This real roller coaster of highs and lows, getting bits to fit, removing seized bits, and just spending time hands-on with it, which I haven't done in so long. It's really quite therapeutic. It's been good to work with my brother on it, which we haven't done in a couple of decades, really. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed already, click the link, and if you've enjoyed this video, like it. And I want to say thanks to Haynes for sponsoring my project car videos. There is 10% off everything, including sale items, and I will put that link below or in the description.